Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. If your top three clients disappear tomorrow, how long would it how long would it take for your business to hold? Would your business succeed? Most established service businesses can't answer this question because it's uncomfortable. Not because they're not good at what they do, but because the revenue depends entirely on a handful of private sector relationships that don't build to last forever. That's the problem we're solving on the show today. And today I want to show you exactly where these opportunities are. There are three different distinct government markets available to your business right now. There's federal, there's state, and then there's local. You see, most people only think of one of them. Or when I say government contracts in a commercial space, they think I'm talking about federal contracts. But reality, there are more than 2 dozen agencies within these three markets, and we call them buyer types. Some people don't think about any of them. They actually just stay focused on federal and what the government is doing from a media standpoint, like a global standpoint. But actually, the day to day essential activities that occur are things that people overlook all the time. The same activities, the same desires and needs that your private sector clients have. So, what I'm going to do today is actually walk you through all three of them. And then I'm going to give you one specific strategic leverage play for each one of them. So that when you leave, by the end of this conversation that we'll have today, you'll know how to position your business. Does that sound good? All right, let's get into federal. Federal contracting is a long game. I don't care what anybody says. Federal contracting is the first thing that most people think when I talk about government contracting. But federal contracting, the federal government spends over $700 billion on contracts every single year. In addition to construction, engineering, IT, cybersecurity, any professional services or consulting services, like recruiting or healthcare. There's so many different types of contracts because every agency is functioning kind of like its own business. Now, if your business delivers a service, there is a federal agency buying that service right now. It's not a guesstimate, it is just about supply and demand. Supply and demand not only works in the private sector, but it also applies to public sector buying. So if it's something that's highly in demand in your current market, more than likely it's already in demand in the federal market. Or it might be a great opportunity to educate your buyers about what is in demand that they're not aware of. And that's very, just kind of few far between. Oftentimes they know because they're consumers or they're building relationships with private sector organizations like yours or like your clients, and they already know this information. They already know, but they haven't yet applied it. And this is where real problems get solved. So let me give you a concrete example. Imagine, for example, an IT and a cybersecurity firm has 10 years of business experience. They have secured enterprise networks for financial institutions, and they have managed infrastructure for healthcare systems, handling millions upon millions of dollars in patient records. They have led incident response for companies that couldn't afford to go down. They have real work, they have real past performance, real capabilities and past experience, real serious work. And it's high stakes work because one fail in the entire system that they develop could cost billions from those millions. So they've never touched a government contracts before, and they assume that means they are starting from zero. And most people think this too. They think that because I'm running my business within the private sector and I've got pretty much everything down pat, and it starts to feel comfortable. Comfortable doesn't always signal that is working properly. Comfortable is you could be in a hailstorm and think that it's comfortable because you're used to hailstorms. But what if you could just have more sunny days? What if you can enjoy the beach? Or if you're a mountain person like me, I love the mountains. You could just get a log cabin somewhere and overlook the gorge. It's just, I prefer not to be in a hailstorm. And the challenge with people who think that they have to start from zero when they're running in a successful business is that they're paying attention to the wrong signals. There actually becomes noise because they see that other people are getting results. And so they just mimic those same things. And reality is like, if I have to be 100% honest with you, that's not often the case. Usually, with an experienced business, you have a lot to leverage. You have a lot of asset value that's already accumulated in your business. And if you're starting from scratch as if you're a brand new business that has never served a client before, it's going to take you longer. And it could actually disrupt your entire operations if you listen to information that's for a startup. Instead, you want to speak to somebody or be guided within a program that's tailored for experts or established businesses who have a track record of getting results for their clients. Because the leverage play in federal contracting is your past performance. Yes, you can win a contract without past performance. Yes, you can win a contract for federal government. However, it's inconsistent oftentimes, and it's not really leveraging the power in your business. And it's kind of like thinking of yourself like an expert. There's a saying that I say often: experts don't know they're experts because you're too close to it. You're too close to the solution that you offer. You're too close to the problem that you solve. And oftentimes when I'm talking to, business owners and their teams, they're communicating in a way that they're only talking about their solutions or the services that they offer. So for example, the IT cybersecurity company only speaks in terms of the service. Like, we provide IT and cybersecurity services. Well, the government buyer, any government buyer, especially at the federal level, wants that diversification. So what? You're going to be competing with other businesses that do exactly that. What's going to be different and unique about the experience with your company? This is where we start unlocking 7, 8, 10, 12-figure contracts and those long-term contracts that last for several years, 3, 5, sometimes 7, longer, is when we get crystal clear on how we solve that specific problem and leveraging our past performance. So in the federal contracting or federal space, it's really about that past performance. Now, if you're a product-based business, this conversation is not for you. This is only for service businesses. Because the government looks at past performance as a lower risk. It's lowering their risk. Federal agencies, including the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, civilian agencies across the board, are specifically trained to evaluate private sector work and translate it into contract readiness. So that IT firm's financial sector experience maps directly to FedRAMP and any adjacent type security requirements. Their healthcare infrastructure work maps to HHS and VA opportunities, Veteran Affairs opportunities. Their incident response history maps to CISA and agency level cybersecurity needs. So now, instead of thinking, well, this is what we deliver, what is the past performance story saying about your specific business? See, this is why there isn't a cookie cutter way. There's a structure, there's a system that you implement. And this is why the GovCon sales strategy works, because it's not about giving you step-by-step guide that for every single business for them to be successful. It's about getting clarity on your specific business, applying the steps, and then moving along the roadmap that gives you guidance on visibility of your leverage. Now, there are um, they also have proof. Okay, so when it comes to proof, we talked about proof yesterday. And the proof is your differentiators, like what makes you different, the stories that you tell. And it's how you represent that story specifically, the language that you use. You want to use the federal buying language. And I know some of the terminology and acronyms are just like way over your head. You might be thinking, what the heck is CISA and VA and HHS? And that's totally reasonable. But that still doesn't indicate that you need to start from scratch. It's just terminology, it's not the process. The system you already have, it just hasn't been realized. So let's dive into for a second, for a few minutes, let's talk about state contracts. So we just covered federal. And the leverage move in federal is past performance. It's not just what you've done, it's the entire story of your business. This is why the audit in step one is so powerful because it doesn't just tell you who the clients that you serve, what products are, excuse me, what services that you've offered, how much you done, and really start to help you create stories with stats and case studies and challenges and solutions and things like that. But it also helps you identify different certifications, different requirements in order to do that work. And those specific elements communicate to a federal buyer, they know what they're doing. Now, imagine you're talking to two separate IT cybersecurity companies. They both have 10 years of experience. One takes their past performance and does it the way that I'm explaining. And then the other one looks at their past performance and only indicates their experience that's similar, like similar in terms of the the name, the company, the description, all that specifically, just the work that you've done. And it misses out on all of the other levels of capability indicated for your response. Who's going to win? You might think to yourself, it's really interesting. I mean, they both have past performance because they've been in business for 10 years, but there's more to the story to tell. And if you're not telling that story, that could be the differentiator or the difference between you winning and you losing. That's just as simple as that. Now, let's move into state. So we talked about federal, let's talk about state, and then we're going to talk about local contracts, which ultimately is the foundation for starting. You see, federal contracts is great when you have momentum, but momentum is built with state contracts. Federal contracts are really just like, it's really the compound effect. It's the, I got it, I've locked it in, and it universally signals that you have a proven track record of delivering successful results. For state contracts, this is where momentum builds from the foundation, which is local contracts. In my experience, helping our clients win contracts, whether it's at the federal level, state, and local level, we've helped our clients just accelerate the entire process, leveraging their past performance. The typical schedule or timeline for contract usually is anywhere between 6 months to 12 months to 24 months for someone to actually win a contract, right? Just to win a contract. But with our system, our GovCon sales strategy, we're able to lock that down. And on average, we help them lock within 3 to 6 months. That's our average. Yes, we have clients that close faster or get awarded faster, and some clients that it takes longer. And that's across all three markets. Now, what's interesting about state, and let me explain how it works because I think it will help you just help you really kind of structure the right buckets in the right order. So, federal is at the top. It has the largest bucket of resources out of the three markets. However, there's more stringency. There's more requirements. There's more the specifics that are required at the federal level. State level, that money does flow down from the federal to the state level. And at the state level, there's relationships that you get to leverage in addition to your past performance. So it starts to expand what helps you win contracts. And then at the local level, I mean, we're just going to talk. It's a significant amount of opportunities for your business. But let's talk about state. Okay. So state contracting, state government contracting is not affected by federal politics. It's not affected by federal budget when it freezes or administration changes or whatever is happening in Washington. When there's a government shutdown, they're speaking specifically to federal and any federal dollars that are associated with that. If they're not federal dollars, essentially or especially the essential services like construction is an essential service, engineering, IT, and most professional services are essential. What that means is that the contracts are still being awarded. Recently, in the most recent shutdown, our clients were still winning contracts at the state and local level. And there are a few of our clients who had won federal contracts that they were still working on them, but they just needed to document the work that they were doing so that they can catch up with their payments because of the shutdown. Now, does it say is that alarming? No, it's not alarming because you still have that contract, and I'm going to teach you how to leverage it in later on. But for state, and I want to stay on topic here on state agencies, they operate independently from federal and they operate independently from local agencies. So they have their own procurement offices, their own budgets, their own contract cycles. They don't all end at the end of September. They have their own contract cycles. And so, if political uncertainty has made you hesitate about federal, state contracting is where you want to start paying attention to, especially the state that you live in right now. Every state government buys technology services, cybersecurity assessments. Every state buys network modernization, IT management services, data governance, digital transformations. The state level demands for exactly what an IT or a cybersecurity firm does, which is significant because it's always growing. And especially right now, there's an transformational, I don't know what to call it. I guess it's a new era of business, of just economy, the economic era. It is an economic era right now with AI. And you, as a business owner who owns an IT cybersecurity company, can easily educate your state buyers on what's necessary for them to evolve into the next era. A lot of them are still running through paid subscriptions and Excel spreadsheets. They haven't yet been graduated to having their own custom solution that's fit for their agency. And as I say this, I imagine several of friends who are procurement officers for state agencies, and that's like one of the things that they'd love to have. But there hasn't been, for the specific people I'm thinking about, has not had a conversation with an ID or a cybersecurity firm yet. That leverage play is state contracting is a relationship. It's relationship building. But see, relationship building is a lot easier than you might think. It's actually way easier. You know the know, like, and trust, right? You hear this to know, like, and trust, or what's in it for me, like what WIIFM radio, right? Well, we're still applying those marketing basics and branding basics to government contracting because we're just speaking to people. What the difference is in relationship is understanding we are in partnership. You see, in the government sector, public sector is specific to focusing on partnerships, strategic partnerships. How can I help you solve this problem? And in return, we are both winning. And even better, if you can create a trio, which is like a win 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 scenario with your agency, your state agency, it goes even further. It starts to build momentum like crazy and unlock opportunities you would have never expect possible. Specifically, intentional relationship building with the right people influence the procurement decisions before the RFP is ever written. How many of you have heard that before? That what you say and how you say it can influence the types of solicitations, the types of contracts that exist that you get to bid on. It's insane. It's crazy. So state agencies are more accessible than federal because, well, they're state, they're focused on one specific region, one specific state at a time. Industry days, there's pre-solicitation meetings and small business outreach programs that exist specifically to connect buyers with their quality vendors early. And this is the piece that people miss. Recently I went to an industry day for the airport here in Orlando, and it was full. I mean, there were at least, I would just say, like at least 300 people there. The conference room that we were in had at least 15 rows of like at least 80 people. So it was a large room. And there was also an overflow room right next door. So there was a lot of people in that industry event. And the conversation that I overheard after they were going through a specific program that they're rolling out, or the attention was, I heard small business owners and even, project managers for big firms talk about when the opportunity was coming out. Well, in my opinion, that's the wrong question to have. The right question is who is who is responsible for this opportunity so that I can build relationship with them before they advertise. Yes, they're going to say that they have everything buttoned up. And in fact, there were a couple of instances where the buyers were on stage and they were going through the opportunities that were coming out, and they did say we're still working through this. This is what we're expecting. This is what we're planning for, which indicates that there isn't full clarity and 100% buy-in to that plan. It's like we're doing our best. We're still ironing it all out. And this is so powerful because it helps you understand, well, how can I help them solve the problem? One of the problems that came up in the conversation was around the in between from a small firm to a large firm. In a small business, there are tons of programs and certifications and things like that to get you started and activated with winning contracts. And then, of course, the larger enterprise, they have programs and specific opportunities that they can only bid on. But what about those that are falling in between, the 50 million ish type contracts? And depending on your NAICS codes by the SBA requirement, they have different thresholds. They have a different threshold to indicate whether you're small or other. And so that other section that came up in a conversation at the industry day, they said, yes, we're aware of this problem and we're looking to solve it. Now, for me, in my spidey sense, I'm like, oh, I would love to be a part of that, solving that problem, because I know there are certain things that you can do to evolve people into a new program and help them stay in the government buying process longer, and even just quantum leap to enterprise, especially today's market. So I say that all to say, to explicitly say that there's so much opportunity to build relationship with state buyers because they're looking for the services that you specifically offer. That IT firm, that specific example I shared with you earlier, that IT firm shows up at the state CIO information forum. Introduces themselves and starts having conversation about a known agency challenge that's already positioned ahead of every competitor who waits for the solicitation to drop. That business and many other businesses that win state contracts are not only the most qualified, but they're the most known. They're present, they're most visible, and the most trusted before the buying process and the decision making ever occurs. Now, is it bias? No, it's intel. It's giving you data points that you wouldn't necessarily have if you wouldn't have had that conversation prior to them writing the solicitation. You see, oftentimes it's not the expert in the service that you offer that's writing the solicitation. So they may or may not know that the key intel or the data points that they have is important for you to know. It's only going to happen in those side conversations at different events, at forums, at industry days. And that's where you learn more about what the problem is. And you can guide and direct them to understanding what the problem actually impacts and doing sales, actual sales, educating them on why they need to build some urgency or potentially increase their budget because it might be a challenge that they don't even really understand the biggest implication to the way that they run their operations. So proximity and credibility, because state is about momentum, okay, and federal is really about just it is an accelerant. It is an accelerant. However, it is really more an advanced level if you want consistency. Now, let's talk about local. I love local contracts because oftentimes local contracts, there are, gosh, there are so many local contracts in addition to state and federal. But if you wanted to get started right now and say you wanted to win a contract right now, like get in line and start building a relationship, the fastest and the most reliable way to get more out of your first few steps in government is actually at the local level. This are your municipalities. These are your municipalities, um, your cities, your cities, your counties, your towns, your these are those that handle everything at a local level, your school districts. And so when we're talking to them, oh my goodness, it's really it becomes very personal. So state is relationship based. Local is personal, especially if you have a track record of delivering services in that local area. So, for example, you're an IT company and your clients, you have several clients that are in the city of Boston, let's say, in the city of Boston. And you go to the city of Boston, you say, I have clients that actually function here in the city of Boston. That is more valuable than just saying, I want to do business with the city of Boston and not have proof that you've delivered before in that city. Just small things that you get to audit within your business that you can already use as a story, a differentiator to stand out within a sea of sameness, within the sea of other businesses that provide your IT and your cybersecurity services. It starts to tell a story. And it's the smallest things that make the biggest impact at local. You see, local government is where I tell most of my business owners to start because they build a foundation of understanding the process of buying. We talk about money flow, we talk about creating a sales pipeline. It's way easier to build the sales pipeline at the local level than it is at the federal level. A lot more variables move at federal versus at the local level. And you get to reach out and connect with people in person. Most of the time, it is so easy to reach out to local buyers and have a conversation with them, connect with them on LinkedIn, and meet them at different events. And it starts to feel like you're just a part of a community like them, and you have a por- partial part you have an interest in helping them solve a problem because that's where your kids go to school, and that's where you pay your water bill, and that's where you get your utilities from. So it starts to get really relational but emotional as well at the local level. There's water management districts, there's transportation or transit authorities, really, not transportation. Department of Transportation is the state level, but the local government is everywhere and they buy consistently. Year after year, month after month, week after week. Oh my goodness, they buy so much. And specifically the industry day I attended 2 weeks ago, they were talking about a program that was a state agency, but they were talking about a program that was over $5 billion. And they want to, that's the program, that's a 5-year program. There's so much opportunity that most people don't see because it's not a federal contract. There are state contracts and there's local contracts. They're spending billions of dollars to buy what you sell. The contracts tend to be smaller than federal, but smaller contracts don't mean they're not significant. A $400,000 county IT services contract is real revenue. A 750,000 municipal cybersecurity assessment, a remediation engagement is real revenue. And so a local contract can build something that a federal contract not necessarily can do, especially if you're comparing a local contract compared to a private sector contract. You see, the local contracts, they happen more often. So it's kind of like your, if you want to, like an analogy would be if you had a bag of potatoes, basically the local contracts are the smaller contracts within a 10-pound bag of potatoes versus a 10-pound potato. It's like everybody wants the 10-pound potato, but the reality is, can we digest the 10-pound potato at a 5 or $10 million business right now? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe you need to use outside resources to deliver. Whereas small, you build moment, you build a foundation. You have multiple contracts under your belt. You're running and stacking contracts pretty quickly, and you're building relationships with those buyers. Here's the thing that most people don't know. And if you're just listening in at this point, you're going to get a golden nugget that most people will never, most people don't know this information, and I'm happy and I'm excited to share it with you. Whether you build relationships at the state, the local, or the federal level, the buyers, those procurement officers, those contracting officers, they oftentimes know each other. So if you're winning contracts at the local level and you need an introduction at the state level, it's much easier because you have a track record of success. And so if you're thinking, I want to be at the state's level, I want to build relationships with state contractors or agencies, by all means, go directly to it. Absolutely. But don't underestimate the opportunities that are available to you at the local level because oftentimes they are the launch pad into state, into federal spaces. Not to mention, some of the state and local contracts incorporate federal funding. So if you look at a solicitation, and this is one of the things that I educate my clients on, is understanding where the money is coming from. This is called our money flow strategy because it helps you understand how can you leverage this program and understand who else is participating in this financial program so that I can build relationships with them as well. Let me give you an example. There recently during the pandemic, there was an Infrastructure Investments Jobs Act. It was an IJA program written into law by our former president, Joe Biden. And this was a $36 trillion program that not only impacted construction and engineering, but also impacted IT, cybersecurity. There it impacted a lot of professional service firms, consulting across the board, because each agency is functioning like a business. Well, there wasn't much knowledge or notification out in the marketplace about IJA. And so I remember going on several podcasts and educating people and saying, this money is real and they have to spend it. Right. It's once it's signed into law, it is something that is required by law to spend every single nickel and dime for these services to improve the way that potentially we live our lives every day here in the US. Well, that program was mentioned in solicitations. So for the contract, when you're bidding on something, it says that this is funded through the Investments Jobs Act. And for many people, they just overlook it. Most people overlook it and they go straight to, what do I need to respond to this? Well, it's like half truth, right? You want to know where the money is coming from and where it's going. So, who else is participating in this program? How can you use that as leverage once you acquired a contract? So, say, for example, your IT and cybersecurity company, you win a contract and it has IJA funding in it. My next question would be, well, what other contracts are in that program? And who is leading that program for your services, for your specific industry? Because that's the next phone call that I would be making. That's the relationship that I want to build. Because by law, they have to spend the money. You see, a lot of people, the consumer market, like all of us, we're focused on the opposite, right? Not spending money. But the government at all three levels is focused on spending money because the two of us, the consumer or civilians plus government, we're actually working together to eh, build an economy, to keep the economy circulating. So this is where it's important to understand where money flows. You win a contract, you understand where the program is coming from financially, and you look for other opportunities within that program. Well, now you know most of the time that's going to be the same scope for other agencies. This is landing. Hopefully, give me a yes down below or give me a like so that I know that it's landing. That's the unlock most people don't ever recognize. They look straight at the, what do I have to respond to win this contract? They may look at the scope of services and say, okay, can we actually deliver this work? But most of the time, people just look at the dollar amount, and that's an amateur move. The strategic move is, where is this money coming from? How often they buy it? Is this new or has a competitor, this somebody, is this a recompete? This is something that an incumbent currently acquired? And if you know those answers, you're much further along in the process of building pro level, executive level relationships with government buyers. So here's where I want to make sure that this is all landing. Okay. So, federal, what we talk about is federal builds your credibility, state builds your momentum, and local builds a foundation. So, you don't have to choose one. You can actually bid on contracts that are right fit at all levels. But I want you to understand that there's a different level of effort for each one. They're not all made the same. And within every agency of the, what is it, the literally 99,000 agencies across the United States, each and every agency has a different communication set, a different language. Some, I've actually seen some acronyms that mean two or three different things across different agencies. So it's understanding your buyer and who has the right fit contracts for you. Could be a mixture of local, it could be a local, state, and federal. It could be that you just say, I just want to do local stuff. I want to be a part of, I want to be a pillar of this community. I want to create local impact. Or you might say, you know what, I can see how this can really impact the state and help them make better executive decisions. Or at the federal, I want to support this agency's intention or mission to fulfill X, whatever that might be. I always recommend buyers, or excuse me, businesses, to align yourself with agencies that are going to help you solve the problem that you solve, that are in alignment with your culture, your mission, your vision. Instead of just saying, well, I just want to win a contract, think I want to win a contract with an agency that is focused on X because I'm focused on it, or that they have, community programs that I actually participate in. And I love that they participate in the community alongside me. This is how we create legacy. This is creating impact. And it just changes the conversation completely for you as an established service business. So right now, what we need to do is just start. It's exactly where most established businesses are right now, and they're stuck. Starting. You're thinking about it, you're considering it, you're like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this and then I'm gonna scroll away and I'll look at it later on after meetings and after the to-do list items that I have. The reality is you just got to start now, because otherwise you're going to miss the opportunity, and you're going to leave tons, I mean millions upon millions of dollars on the table because you don't start now. And you're looking to solve the problem to your business, creating consistency, predictability, and you're looking to basically get your time back, right? Your time freedom, and understand how to hire people that already know how to do the thing, and they can lead your team and also educate them along the way. And this is what happens when you step into government contracting. This is what happens when you start building relationships with local, state, and federal agencies. This is what happens. You go from a freelancer mindset to an enterprise level mindset, where you're increasing the value of your business, where you're standing out from your competition. You don't really have competition at that point. And you get to track and build a basically forecast for several years ahead, while everybody else is just collecting the pennies week by week, because they don't have a clear picture, because what they're starting is actually not going to be the same steps to get them to where they want to go. And we already know that. A new formula needs to be added and utilized in order for you to leap from where you are to where you want to go. That's just what it is. So congratulations for being at where you are right now and realizing that there has to be something new added to the formula to get you to where you want to be. Now, on Thursday, I'm hosting a free live training called Real Business, Real Contracts. And here's what I want you to understand about it. This isn't a webinar. You're not going to forget what we talk about. It's actually going to be implementation. The conversation in the room is going to be extraordinarily valuable to you. And I'm going to be there live, taking real questions, working through real solutions, and giving you a specific path forward based on where your business is right now. Not a framework, not a sequence of steps that you can execute this week. real roadmap, something that is going to be custom and very structured for your success, for your business success. Now, if you run an IT firm, a construction company, an engineering practice, a consulting a business, a professional services operation, and you have been sitting on this idea of government contracting without knowing exactly how to move, you want to come to the session. It's completely free and it's live. This is not a recording. We actually have conversation, but this is a private session. So all you have to do is go register right now at realbusinessrealcontracts.com. The link is in the description. And don't let today's episode be information that you filed away into your mind. Let this be something that you take action on right now. So I'll go ahead and put the website on the screen. Real Business Real Contracts. Why? Because creating legacy, creating the impact in the transforming this world in the way that it needs to right now and for the foreseeable future. Okay. When working with businesses that are in business for 40, 60, 100 years, and they have installed government contracting since the beginning of their business. Imagine we're celebrating 250 years as a country this year in 2026. That should tell you a lot that this is not a temporary solution. This is not something that's going to evolve and change. This is a structured process for elevating to a new level. And you win when you get in this space. You win. You win through relationships, with partnerships, with agencies, impact, legacy. Your business thrives. This is what happens. And so we'll be talking about that and sharing with you how it has worked for so many other of our clients and how it can work for you. Just go to realbusinessrealcontracts.com and I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.